Hello, Internet capitalists, and welcome to show number 19, Ben. Is that correct?
I think so. It's 19 or 20. I actually got to check
Maybe
that.
it's
But
number
yeah,
20.
it might
Wow,
be
show
20. It might be
XX.
20.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. Show
Yeah.
XX. We survived in a down market.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yes. Well, first update of the week is always the Indiana Hoosiers football team. 5-0. They play today. We're filming on Saturday. They play today at 3:30 versus Northwestern. If they win, they will be bowl eligible for the first time well, they were bowl eligible COVID year, which may not count, but the first time in 20 years besides that. And they will be the first FBS team first FBS team eligible for a bowl with 6 wins, which is incredible.
Yeah, that's good. They look good. Excited to watch some college football today for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm filming today from beautiful Gibsonia, Pennsylvania, just north of Pittsburgh, back home for a little bit. Benjo is, as usual, in the center of crypto in North America, the Big Apple.
Yep.
Is it a nice day there, Ben? I see sunlight in the background.
Yeah, it's fairly nice. We're starting to get that coolness of the fall, which is kind of cool. I like that weather, so can't complain.
Good, good. Well, I'm getting ready to, after this, going to go outside and trim some garden plants down and throw that stuff away. Apologize for my outfit today. It's a little shabby looking, but you know, desperate times call for desperate measures, and crypto's been in a bear lately, so you got to conserve.
Hmm. A lot of, not going to make a comment on that one, but fair enough. Fair enough. I like the hat at least. Shout
Oh,
out
thank you.
Quiet
Yes.
Coffee. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool
Oh, I
coffee
did want to
mug.
bring something up. You know, my saying nothing burger, it's gaining some traction in some of the discords I'm in. It's been used in appropriate context on the discords. I'm excited about that.
So you're claiming the term Nothing
Yes.
Burger as your own. Got it. All right.
Yes. So Ben, we'll add that to invented world's first self-driving cars. Thought I invented the first blog, but that has since been refuted.
That's not true.
And now it is true. And now nothing burger. Three
Got it. You
things.
you ever read Paul Graham's blog post? He's one of the most prolific bloggers these days. If you
I
kept
do
going,
not, but I'm
you could have been like him. You kept going.
yeah, well, I sort of am like him, right? I'm the
A
crypto
little
him.
bit. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I feel like you just had your tech run in
I
robotics,
did.
and then you were done with it. You were a football guy after that. Paul just kept going, and now he's writing about founder mode and this and that. That was the biggest. I'm sure you've heard the term founder
Yeah,
mode, but that was his latest post that gained some
gotcha.
interesting feedback.
Well, I did want to let you know I've been thinking, and I texted you this. I'm thinking about my thesis on how the world will be divided into different crypto zones, and how those ecosystems will both be largely integrated, but also they'll be connected around the world with the big centralized exchanges um, and chains kind of coalescing with each other. So I'm going to write a little editorial for you. You can put in the newsletter on that.
You have to before you do this. You have to read. Have you read Balaji's the network state? You know who Balaji is, don't
Yeah, the
you?
guy online. Yeah,
Yeah, well, he was the Coinbase CTO originally,
yeah,
and yeah, he's been around a while. Really smart guy, but he talks about network states, which are basically sovereign civilizations that are independent from traditional nation states, and they're really centered around technology. And he argues that they're already forming in
yes,
online, and now they're actually instantiating physically. So there's some projects, I believe Praxis Society is one of these, where they are acquiring land and attempting to implement this type of network state in a physical place. So it's interesting ideas.
I like that. I like that idea. Yeah. Well, we'll get to that later. So, what do you have this week, bud? What's on the agenda? What's on the topic list that we can dive into? Oh, well, you have
You got to look
markets.
at
There
the
we go, baby.
yeah. I don't even
Oh,
like this section anymore because not even just because we're down. It's just boring. Look at this. Look at this chart. This is terrible. Like
that chart.
I at least if we nuke, it's entertaining. Like I don't even care that much if the coins go down in the near term. But we're just sideways. We're at exactly the same price, which is 62,395, at which we were at in March. So we're not quite at a year ago, but that's half a year, and we have not done anything.
Yeah, that, I would say boring. Well, you know what that is? That's a nothing burger since March.
Yeah,
Another example of nothing burger right there.
fair enough. Yeah, it's interesting because yeah, Bitcoin's been trading weird. It's really been trading sideways, though we got that move up from, a rebound out of the bear market. And then we had all of the ETF news. And then since then, it's really just been complete chop. This is the definition of chop. And it's funny because whenever Bitcoin's a weird asset because people make arguments for it being an inflation hedge, which it hasn't really been an inflation hedge in the short term. It's more of a debasement hedge over the long term. And they say some people want to argue that it's a flight to safety asset, but whenever we get global geopolitical tensions, like in the Middle East, it nukes also. It still trades like a risk on asset. So and then gold has been ripping, and obviously it's referred to as digital gold, and it's kind of the closest digital analog. So eventually it should theoretically trade like gold, but it has also not been correlated with gold almost at all, as gold is reaching all time highs, and Bitcoin has been stagnant throughout this period when gold's been on a run. So I don't know what to say. It's just boring, in my opinion.
I agree, 100%. Boring.
Yeah, yeah. We can look at ETH too, which is ETH's been still not great. I don't know. There's a bunch of memes about ETH holders in 2024. It's like you bought ETH in 2024. It has been so much pain. So we had this euphoria, and it was really
Yeah,
this is basically up only. This is as up only as it gets. And then we really traded down a bit, had this big move up here. I believe this was with the ETF,
ETF.
yes, and then we just started trading back down a similar pattern. It's just been huge dumps after we make a little bit of a recovery. And I just from my personal experience on crypto Twitter and elsewhere, whenever we get these little moves up, everyone becomes uber bullish again. Everyone's like, "Yeah, we're back, cycle's back, baby." And then we just end up dumping in these few week periods. So kind of depressed. But the good thing about ETH is that it is useful. You can use it in DeFi. You can use it across many chains. At least you can do stuff with it. While if Bitcoin was doing this, the only
Well,
point of
wait,
Bitcoin is
we're
for it to
so
go up.
put the mark up there, Ben. I think we're like back in, well, yeah, right now we're at somewhere in February. So basically, both Bitcoin and ETH have went back to where they were when we started this show,
Yeah,
or before
yeah,
that.
pretty
Just the
much.
the intermediary steps look a little bit different, is it? So
Yeah, yeah. Essentially, it's not very entertaining, and of course, unfortunately, and we'll see this with the crypto sectors. Actually, this week in the newsletter, I made some progress on the
really,
crypto sectors. Yeah, so we'll have some cool visualizations at least. And for now, we don't have like a long term index necessarily. The way I'm doing it for now is look week to week. You start each index at 0 for the week, and then just see how each sector did on the week, since it is a weekly newsletter. And unfortunately, I did expand the horizons a bit and look at which sectors have performed the best since around this time. And it has been meme coins. So,
ugh,
yeah, so meme coins are the best performing asset in crypto this year. I'm sure you don't like that, but it is the truth. So, that's the market we've been in, and that's just how it is for now.
gotcha, gotcha. The only meme coin I like is my meme coin, which doesn't exist yet.
Mm, yeah, yeah. You're going to make a meme coin?
Yeah, TGT.
Why would anyone
Gonna
buy
have
TGT?
horns on it. It's gonna be its logo. Hook 'em horns, baby.
Why would someone buy it though? What's your value? What
Why
are
does
you
anyone
offering
buy
them?
it? Why does anyone buy it?
Meme coins because it's a funny meme or it's cute or something.
All right, well, mine's gonna be a nothing burger meme coin then. That's
All
funny.
right, we'll see. We'll see.
All right,
That's it
we'll
for
see.
markets. As
All
always, this
right,
has been extremely boring, so we don't have to spend that much time on it. I think the news, it's interesting because the news is actually pretty good in crypto this year in the whole cycle. It's been a lot of developments, a lot going on, but prices just suck. So,
yeah. All right, you're gonna start with this?
sure. So, what happened earlier this week is that Iran launched a bunch of missiles, around 200, I believe, at Israel, Tel Aviv. And this was a significant escalation in the conflict in the Middle East because previously it was Iran in a conflict through its proxies with Israel, not necessarily as direct fighting. And because of this, markets, both traditional and crypto, got spooked. And just want to say, like, hope that's terrible. Prayers out to everyone living in that region. And talking about markets is a bit of the type of thing, like, feels like it's wrong to do in light of that type of thing, but markets are infected or impacted by these type of things. So we're going to talk about it. And that caused all of the coins to nuke, and Bitcoin liquidations topped $500 million on that news. So any thoughts there?
I not really. I mean, I think you described it pretty well. This just goes back to show, though, it's an asset that is moving as if it is not inversely correlated with risk, right? Bad things happen, people dump it when I assume gold would probably have gone up because it's a more of a solid asset. So, I think it's sort of just acting like a tech stock, if you ask me. It's doing what the market, it's very correlated with what the market is doing, it seems like to me. And I'd have to look at that, but that's just my sense over the past, 6 months.
Yeah, I think
Um,
you're right. I think you're right. And in my opinion, it's not because of anything fundamental about Bitcoin. Like, the market
no.
is irrational often, and the way it's perceived is the way it's traded. And it's funny
Hmm.
because if you look at it like as from a fundamental perspective, and like eventually where it gets to, if it really does become this global reserve asset mainly held by nation states for a strategic purpose, then it actually will trade really closely to gold, and that's how gold is currently used. Because when things get scary, you want gold, and this kind of current market environment where Bitcoin trades like a tech stock is really just because people hasn't been fully accepted in society. People don't understand it, and that's kind of my take.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's fine.
Yeah. So the other things here is that people were pretty bullish before this happened, because we had the Fed rate cut, and there's been more back and forth on that. Actually, we had a pretty strong jobs report that came out
Very
just
strong. That
yesterday.
was yesterday.
Yeah, all of the revisions to jobs have been downward though coming this month, but the number of job postings exceeded expectations by like 2 or 3x, which was something
Right.
crazy. It was like 450K versus 150K expected or something like
Right.
that. So very strange, but we did get the Fed rate cut, and Powell says we will continue, but they will not be as aggressive. So that was fairly bullish, or at least in alignment with expectations. And there was some more bullish news about China. And I didn't read too much into this, but I believe they're engaging in some form of quantitative easing over in China, and that liquidity is increasing over there. So people were bullish about that. And that was the sentiment coming into the week. But then we had the conflict and the nuked, which led to all these liquidations because all the traders were positioned long. So that's kind of how the market
Yep.
went. Any more thoughts on this before we go to the next one?
So you and I talked about this, but part of the China deal, and this is just crazy to me, is that part of their strategy to insert liquidity in the market is they decided, meaning the Communist Party of China decided to tell their central bank to retroactively, or yeah, to lower mortgage rates starting immediately for people that had mortgages. So they aren't locked into their long-term payments. They don't have to refinance. They just get a new rate, which is lower, which should give the average consumer. And my suspicion is those are mostly middle to upper class people that have some money that are prone to spend it, some extra dollars to inject into the economy. So
Yeah,
I found that, I think that's kind of a cool side effect of communism that you can just make that decision and help immediately. But I found that interesting that that's what they did.
yeah. I mean, contract law does not apply in these sort of societies. It's funny because we talked about this before, but China kind of just realized that markets are really useful and that
Yeah.
they're needed to grow an economy, but at the same time, they didn't want to give up this authoritarian power that they wield to do this sort of thing. And it's like, there's no contract law. It's good for the consumer, but imagine like the private business that is receiving this higher interest rate on this
Yeah.
loan that they gave to someone, and then the government's just like, yeah, no, it doesn't apply. That's lower. They're not paying as much. It's like, okay, that's not really a fundamentally philosophically sound way to do things. How can you ensure that contract law or private property rights are guaranteed. And the fact is, in China, they're not. So
Right.
you're right. It is a side effect of that. So give and take, give and take.
That sounds a little bit similar to the federal government telling banks they need to buy treasuries to shore up their balance sheets, and then instantly
Yep.
cutting
Yep.
or raising rates, huh?
Yep. And then
Yeah.
they say that the banks were terribly managed. In some cases they were, but they blame it entirely on them. Whenever they mandated they buy this safe asset that they immediately nuked the value of by doing the fastest rate cut cycle, I believe, ever in this short
Rate
period of
raise
time.
cycle. Rate raise.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Sorry. Rate raise
But
cycle.
that's a different topic.
Because these treasuries were yielding like 1-2%, and then they jacked up the market rates to like 5.5%. So their securities are worthless. But that's a different conversation. I am diving deeper. I'm in the process of, among other things I'm doing. I'm quite busy
Yeah.
with a lot of things, but I want to make a video going over the Nick Carter's Operation Choke Point 2.0 article, just so it's more
Yeah.
widely seen. Because not a lot of people read full length articles. So I think making a video based on that would be cool to explain what happened there. So
That's a great idea. Yeah. Well,
so I'm working on
stop
that.
right there. I think we need to plug a little cryptic plug for crypto about the new piece of software you're working on that could massively help all of us keep track of our portfolios. Now, I'm not going to give any more on that, but it's an ingenious, extremely simple but high utility idea. So look for that. What's it going to be called, Ben?
I don't know. I was thinking about some names, but then they would be misleading, because if you think about the product, I don't want to give any details right now. We're in the early stages. I have
Hey,
developed
this
some
is
basic
called?
functionalities. What?
This is called stealth mode.
Stealth mode. Yeah. You can put
Stealth mode.
on your LinkedIn, like founder stealth mode.
Can I? I can do that too.
Yeah, you can. Anyone can do it. You can change your LinkedIn and do whatever you want. I don't know. You're
Okay.
not helping on this project though, so I don't know.
Wow.
You can help if you want, but I don't know how much you're gonna. You know how to use Git?
Like GitHub?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Well, we
So
can't
I'm
really work.
useless.
We can't really work together then. Yeah.
No, I'm the operate. Remember, I'm operations and all that stuff, and you're behind the scenes doing stuff.
Okay. Fair enough. But yeah. Stay tuned. We'll keep you guys updated.
Yeah.
We'll see how busy I am, but it shouldn't take too long. I'm making some good progress with the new ChatGPT's coding is extremely, extremely easier. So
Are you still going to class, by the way?
yeah, mostly. I try to.
All right, whatever. Continue.
Sometimes I got stuff going on, man. But yeah, I try to.
All right.
I try my best.
You try your best.
It's all
What's
one
next?
can do, right?
No,
One can
that's
do
an excuse.
otherwise
That's
than
an
try their
excuse.
best. Try
Huh?
what? That's not true. All you can do is try your best. You might not like it. That's true.
Yeah. I think as long as you don't use that as an excuse. I tried my best, even though it didn't work out. Did you
Well,
really?
that's not.
Did you really try your best?
That's not trying your best. That's a different thing entirely.
Okay, let's continue
Flying.
on. Oh, okay.
All
All
right.
right. First thing here, Ben. In this article, please pronounce the person's name that wrote it.
Oh, Anchali Warachate.
Okay.
I have no
What
idea who this
ethnicity do you
is.
think that is?
That I do not care, and we are not going to comment on that. But
Okay.
the title of the article is BlackRock's Larry Fink, says the market is wrong on Fed rate cut bets. So he said the market is pricing in too many interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve, given that the U.S. Economy continues to grow. And it seemed this, I believe, yes, he stated this on Tuesday before the jobs report came out. And it seems like he could be right about that. As always, Larry Fink is on top of things, but I think this was generally correct as well. It seems like the Fed is going to take a more tempered pace to rate cuts unless something breaks. So any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, the rate cuts are going to be at quarter point at most. And if things continue on their current path and inflation doesn't spike, maybe we'll get, 18 months of quarter point rate cuts. And that'd be another point and a half. We'd be down right around 3.75 to 4% then, maybe something like that. And that may be, and we've talked about it, that may be the new normal. That may be the new baseline interest rate. Because there's been a lot of talk about, like, I forget what the term is, but that baseline level has increased potentially.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. In my opinion, the biggest problem with us is the interest payments on our
Yeah.
federal debt. So, even at that level, if we keep having a deficit year after year, which doesn't look like it's going to turn around anytime soon, then our interest payments are just going to continue to balloon and balloon and balloon, and within 5 to 10 years, they will exceed our tax revenues, just the interest payments.
Yeah.
So that is an issue, and I don't see how you can keep interest rates at the current level, definitely, or perhaps even that slightly muted level over the long term with this level of debt. So,
Agree.
yeah.
Well, and that's something that neither party in the United States wants to do. And for our listeners around the world, there are tax rates in the U.S. Most sub 20%, and I know in many European countries the amount you pay on everything is 30, 40, 50, 60%.
Well, that's
So,
why that's why Europe sucks. Because
well, no,
okay,
man, we have to. I think my friends in Europe even say the same thing. They're not real
yeah,
fond of Europe. We have to find a happy medium, though. We have to find a
okay.
happy medium.
My problem is that the current paradigm in which everyone thinks is, and of course the government has this incentive, but it's especially the Democrats, the left. It's like raise taxes to bring in more revenue and increase spending, when really it should be the opposite. Because the government is the least efficient organization ever. You want more money in the pockets of private industry as opposed to the government. So you'd rather have a smaller government and lower taxes so you keep more money in the real economy, as opposed to taking in more money to the federal government and just expanding spending as well. So that really should be the conversation, because Elon said this once. The DMV is a microcosm of the government. Imagine the DMV at a large national scale, and that is large part of the federal government. That's what happens, and it's so inefficient that just getting more money into the government, having them spend more, and just giving them more money does not do anything. So this is why, like, I don't know if you've heard about this. The Trump administration reportedly, with the help of Elon Musk and others, wants to cut a bunch of government programs, not necessarily entitlements or any of these things, but other more bloated organizations. I've specifically heard parts of the Department of Education and other things. So that's what they're saying. And if Elon could do it, I'd be open to that for sure.
So, okay, let's talk near term. I think in the near term, you have to raise taxes or revenue some way, and you need to cut spending. You need to
Yeah,
do both now.
you can't do. That's not going to happen though.
Well, but if that doesn't happen, then it's going to be impossible to do the latter. And second, in order to make any kind of dent in the budget or the deficit, you have to go after, or that's the wrong word, you have to target the programs that spend the most. Cutting Department of Education is nothing. You have to look at, and these are bad words to say, but you have to look at entitlement programs. You have to look at military spending. You have to look at all of those, Social Security, and I guess an entitlement program. But those are the big money things. Department of State, Commerce, Education, EPA. Those literally are nothing burgers in a $1.9 trillion federal budget or whatever it is. So, you know, military clearly is a big pork item. Same with the entitlement programs. That's the third rail of politics, so they say in the U.S. But you know, you have to figure that out if you don't want to raise taxes to 50, 60%, which if you would severely hurt innovation and growth, not only in the U.S. but worldwide, I think.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think you're right about that. I think for entitlement specifically, I think like a lot of younger people, if you just said like, hey, like starting at this date, like you're not get it, it's over. Like the program is finished for people
Yeah.
younger than this. And if you just said that now, then it would not be a problem, because I think a lot of people don't my age even think or expect to have that, to be honest. And I've heard this interesting, and I don't really know the specifics of this. I don't know where the money is going. I don't know how it's diced up exactly.
I
But
just looked it up.
yeah, Vivek Ramaswamy, the Republican one of the Republican presidential nominees, he debated. He has this idea that on day one, you just go in and for all federal government employees, and I'm not sure how much of a dent this would make again, but you just like flip a coin, and if you randomly assign people ones and zeros, and then you flip a coin, and if it's heads, then all the ones are fired, all of them. So you immediately cut the government in half, and you do that 2 times. So you're left with 25% of the government, and it's randomly distributed, and you cannot be come after on the grounds of like firing based on race, ethnicity, and other things. And this would reduce bloat in the government substantially in a completely random way.
Right.
And
So
that
wait a
was one of his random ideas, which I think Vivek's a really smart guy, but I just thought that was a funny story.
So we're going to call that the Thanos protocol because he stole that literally from uh, the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Thanos snapping his fingers and half the people in the universe disappear.
Yeah, I think he states that that's where the idea came from, or yeah.
All right, as long as he states that, that's good.
Yeah, no, I think
Hey,
that's a
so
fine idea. I mean,
well, yeah, I don't think you can throw them out in the street. You have to have some contingency for them.
that's true. That's true.
But here's the dollar terms fiscal data. This is like 2024 government spending. Why don't you guess what the number one expense is?
It's interest or military, right?
Social Security, 21% of the
Oh, really?
budget. Yeah. So
Then
your
interest, then
idea about
military?
telling everyone under 22 nothing. No, no, you get a nothing burger. No soup for you. Or you pick the age, but there's some age, probably under 30 or 35 at the most, that you say that. Number two, Medicare. Um, that's a little tougher because I think I think in the U.S. Senate, we want to take care of our older people, and Medicare is something we need to do. Number three, though, at 13% of the budget, net interest cost.
Yeah,
All
that's a
right.
problem.
Crazy. Number 13, also at 13%, healthcare. Um, and think of it this way: between Medicare, which is healthcare, and health, that's 27% of the budget is being spent on those things. That's an area where I think redistributing the heavy lift of the cost worldwide might be something that these companies want to look at because a big part of this is because the U.S. consumer will pay for it. Just next is then national defense. And then below that at 10% is income security, which I believe is basically poverty aid, low income support, things like that. So 10% of our budget is based on what I would say socializing, 10
Mm-hmm.
cents of every dollar goes to helping other people. And then everything else
Mm-hmm.
below that is 5% or less, veterans benefits, education and training and social services, only 2% on transportation, which shocks me. If I was the magic guy, I would move shit around and put more into that. And then
Yeah,
3% on other. So, but anyway,
interesting.
Social Security, healthcare, interest, defense are the big four.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I guess that this is a hard problem. I mean, this is why I'm
Yeah.
just like, yeah, give it to Elon, let him figure it out. He's the dude. But again, they hate him and they cancel him. So like, he doesn't have a good chance
I
because
don't
they
feel
do
really
have.
bad for him. He owns the biggest
I don't
information
feel
distribution platform in the
it's
world.
not about feeling bad for him. It's about let the most competent person who happens to on Earth who happens to live in our country fix stuff. But people don't want to
Yeah.
let him fix stuff
No.
because he occasionally says something mean on the Typey app that people don't like. Like that's the dumbest thing I've heard ever.
Yeah,
Like just
I think
let him go fix stuff.
I think if he was in charge, he would move quickly, make mistakes, but he would be thoughtful and he would use real information coming back to him to modify his plan.
Yeah, yeah, of course he would. And then I think one of the again, this is a hard problem, so we're really just kind of like throwing stuff out there, talking about it. Like all these problems are very hard, but it seems like the fundamental problem is like the government's just super bloated, and there's a mismatch of incentives. Like there's no in a traditional company like you can grow your team and things expand if you're profitable. Like you get more resources based on your effectiveness. While in the
Hmm.
government, this does not seem to be the case. There's no feedback loop of measuring if something works and then allocating more resources to the thing that works. And there's all these things just like thrown into these ginormous random bills. So the whole process is just kind of like convoluted, and it's difficult to target specific things just because of the way it works. So I don't know what the answer is, but that seems to be the issue.
All right. Well, I tend to agree with everything you said. Let's move on back to crypto.
Okay.
While you're pulling the next thing up, one thing I noticed this week, and I shot you another text about that. Why aren't you responding to my text, by the way?
Do you want me to go over all the things that I'm currently doing in my life?
But you can
text you quite often. I text you quite often. I do for
all right.
relative
Well,
to
before
my...
we get to Diddy, all right, whatever. Sure. For the user out there, before we get to Diddy, so an observation is that it seems to me that this whole tokenization continues to gain steam with more and more organizations using the blockchain for payments or to tokenize assets or for whatever things. And these are not small companies, these are big companies. I think the latest was Target and PayPal and somebody else paid each other using stables. And there are at least 2 large financial institutions that are offering tokenized versions of some of their money market funds, similar to what BlackRock did with the Beetle thing, which I think is a good sign moving forward that it's, independent of whatever those stupid charts look like that are going sideways, there's utility being found in the underlying technology.
Yeah, this is something that always comes up. Like, in my opinion, the most revolutionary use case for crypto, for all the people who say crypto has no use cases, was Ethereum whenever it was created. It's just this ability to tokenize real things. It's like it was always there. It was just a problem of no one knows about it at first. The institutions don't know about it. It was barely a thing. It barely had enough traction. The technology was still pretty janky. It was hard to use, couldn't handle capacity. And after that, it was like, well, the governments don't like this for a variety of reasons. So they're either going to try to deliberately kill it or just make it really difficult to actually use the technology. And or institutions, these large ones, just move very slow. So I think we're getting out of like that first phase where the technology actually is useful and people can actually use it now. And you're saying fintechs adopt it for tokenization, as you said. And then eventually we'll see the institutions get into it. They're just slower. But the thing is, the use case was there from the beginning. It is tokenizing real world assets to make this settlement, this transfer of assets more efficient, more transparent, more global, more interoperable, and all of these things. So people saying, where are the use cases? The biggest use case was already there. It's non-sovereign money, which is like Bitcoin, Ethereum, all those things, which is good as a hedge against government debasement of currencies. That's great from a financial perspective. From a technology perspective, the biggest use case was smart contracts and tokenization. And that's it. Like, you can only get so far within this blockchain economy. It's just circular. Like, you can keep coming up with new financial games, new types of things, but until you connect it to the real world or real world assets and something external, then you're not going to get anywhere. So it's like, this is the use case. It just goes slowly. So I don't understand when people say that.
I tend to agree. Yeah. And I think, all right, nothing burger or not, I'm giving it to you. Nothing burger or not. Within 5 years, there will be direct access to your home equity via the blockchain. Meaning, I can go into my Ravi wallet and transfer arbitrary amounts of USDC from my house to wherever I want to do it. Nothing burger or not?
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that's going to be the case, but that would not be a nothing burger. That would be fantastic. Like, I think would be extremely significant, but I don't think we get there. It actually depends. I think it depends who wins this election. I think if Trump wins, then we might get there. But in the meantime, there is a higher risk of the entire thing blowing up because there's just less regulation on it and they go too far. I think that's a possibility for sure that I'm worried about.
So let me rephrase. Anywhere in the world.
Probably somewhere in the world. Yeah. In the United States, probably less so. It just depends on the administration in place
Gotcha. Okay.
We'll see.
Fair
That would
enough.
be very cool, though. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is. I just wanted to mention this. This is a weird coincidence. There's been multiple connections between Diddy and Sam Bankman-Fried. So I don't want to explain the whole Diddy thing. I'm sure everyone's heard about it. Sam Bankman-Fried, everyone listening to this has also heard about it. But they are actually cellmates in jail, apparently. And they're in a jail in Brooklyn here in New York, I believe. So they're actually pretty close to me. Which
They're
is
not in the same
interesting.
cell. They're in the same cell
Yes.
block.
Yes.
No,
No.
no, no
I
way.
don't. They're cellmates, dude.
Diddy and SBF share a cell. Like they go poop in the same toilet in their
I
cell.
think
That's not true.
Bankman-Fried and the rapper are both living in the same unit of the jail, sleeping in a dormitory-style room with other inmates. So it's a lot of them, I guess. But they're in the same. It's like it's probably a bunch of beds, and like they're all in there. That's what it sounds like.
Messed up.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they're putting that Diddy dude around anyone. Like SBF is just like he's a scammer for sure. But like they're letting Diddy around these. Diddy's a menace.
Diddy could take advantage of SBF, I think.
Yeah, Diddy's a menace. That dude is. Yeah. So apparently, I just wanted to put that out there because the new thing here is that Diddy hired SBF's lawyer. So maybe they're friends in there. And SBF was like, I got this really good lawyer. And I believe SBF's actually like appealing his sentence, his ruling. So
you know what's crazy, Ben? This is actually crypto related. That we're talking about Diddy in a jail cell with SBF, who orchestrated the largest crypto fraud in world history.
Yeah. Cryptos. This is why I wanted to like make more stuff to document like the crazy stories in crypto. Because I think normal people, if you're a normal person, you don't pay attention to it. The stuff that happens in this industry on a week to week, month to month basis is so ridiculous that you wouldn't believe it. Like there's this stuff going on. There's people getting rich from buying some meme coin about like a cat or something, and then there's all this nonsense. There's just this BitBoy guy who goes and fights people. We have fighting events, and there's people box each other in the industry. It's just not real.
No.
Okay,
this guy's gone, man. We don't like him. Boo!
The SEC Enforcement Director Gurbir Grewal is leaving the agency. So Deputy Director Sanjay Wadhwa will take over for Grewal as acting enforcement chief. Apparently, I don't know a lot about this, but apparently this is somewhat unprecedented in the sense that this usually doesn't happen. They usually stay the length of the administration or their term. And he just happened to leave. I think it's because he's been losing a lot. All the enforcement actions that they go after, they lose a lot of them. So that might be it, but I'm not sure about this. Anything to add?
He's probably going to go to private industry and make a lot of money.
Maybe. I don't know. It seems like a lot of these people genuinely dislike crypto. So if he was, I guess this wasn't exclusive to crypto. He's just the enforcement officer.
So go work for Warren's campaign.
Elizabeth, well, yeah, I guess that's not. He probably wouldn't make that much money doing that. She stinks though. I saw she was talking about today breaking up Citibank. Actually, Citibank sucks, which I thought was funny.
I think we kind of do know they do suck a little bit, but why break them up? Like they're a monopoly of some sort?
No, just because they suck, I think. I don't know what she was talking about. It's interesting. She feels the need to like police financial markets a lot, so I just saw that.
Oh.
I don't really know. I didn't have anything to add.
All right. I'm glad you brought this one up. What's XRP?
It's a institutionally focused blockchain. Basically, that's been around for a long time. It was one of the earliest cryptos, so that's why it has kind of an entrenched position in the top assets. Like if you look at the top assets on CoinGecko or something, it's better than it used to be, but there's some nonsense in there. There's like Cardano in the top 10, top 15. No one uses that. I have no idea who holds these tokens and who believes it's going somewhere, but XRP is one of those. And they have this whole XRP development company who's located here in the United States, and they've just been around a while.
What do they do?
It's just a blockchain for payments. It's like focused on institutions, focused on payments.
Gotcha.
And yeah. I don't really know much about XRP. It's this weird, like there's these weird coins like XRP and others where the more the less professional corners of crypto, like it's more just like random people on Twitter and stuff that you don't see maybe on YouTube. People are obsessed with these coins, and you just have these YouTubers shilling, probably paid from the foundations or people associated with the projects, shilling these tokens on long YouTube videos, and they just talk about how XRP is going to overtake Bitcoin or something. So it's a weird, yeah. I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, continue. I interrupted you.
Again, I don't have that much here. Like again, I did not read much
all right,
about
here's
this.
the deal. Bitwise is one of my favorite firms, and maybe if we can get on Mr. Park, their director of research or investments, we can ask him about XRP.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting that they filed for a spot XRP ETF over some others. I believe they did file for Solana like a few months back when
Yeah.
everything was getting approved, also. So I guess it's just up there. But yeah, interesting, I guess.
All right. Well, is that the last topic of the day?
No, there's a couple more.
Nice. All
So
right. Let's go.
So Robinhood is launching crypto transfers in Europe as it's pushing overseas expansion. So that's kind of cool. Robinhood's been very pro crypto. They have this Arbitrum integration, as we've mentioned in the past.
Yep.
And I guess this will allow customers in the EU to deposit and withdraw over 20 crypto assets through its platform. So that's pretty cool. And this just goes back to the fact that fintechs are the first to integrate crypto, as it makes sense. So another good thing from Robinhood, I would say.
Now they're doing this through their bits. Well, who they buy? Bit something?
Bitstamp.
Bitstamp. Yeah, through their Bitstamp integration. So Bitstamp is more of a centralized crypto exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Robinhood is just a stock market maker, retail focused, right?
It's not a market maker. It's basically just like a front end. Like originally, it was just a front end for retail users to be able to route orders and like stock trading orders and day trade through a simple app to the market, and that's basically what they did. Yeah.
So they now have this integration with Arbitrum, and they have Bitstamp that they purchased to give them all the connections, so to speak, or the literal technical connections to get deeper and deeper into crypto. So that's interesting. This is part of my thesis on where the big players are going to be. So anyway, good. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. They're still making strides. I think the more you can get crypto in front of normal people, the better. So it's kind of interesting that people can get exposed to it in an increasing way across the world through Robinhood because they have a large user base. So I think that's the good part.
Yep.
And then last thing here, Franklin Templeton's on-chain money market fund launches on Aptos. So this is interesting. I've actually seen like a lot of this, like a lot of asset issuers like Franklin Templeton are releasing funds and other tokenized funds across multiple blockchains. So like they launched on Stellar, Polygon, Arbitrum, Avalanche, and now Aptos is one of them. So I find this interesting. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah. So that token called what they call Benji or something, Foxby,
Yeah.
or is that the
It's
ticker name for
the
it?
fund is called FOBXX, FOBXX,
Yep.
and it's represented. Its shares are represented by the Benji token. Apparently.
So this literally means I could buy U.S. government money market. Essentially means short-term treasuries or the like, very short-term, by purchasing a Benji token on any of those 3, 4, 5 networks. Now, presumably, if I held that token to maturity, I would get back more than I bought it for, because that's sort of what happens in these money market funds, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure how the redemption process works
Sure.
for any of this. And I think these are more proofs of concept, right? Like these
Yeah.
asset issuers are testing out this functionality with a really basic product because it's like, at the end of the day, it's just a hassle for any normal person. Like if you're using Aptos, like
Yeah.
you're going to hold a money market token, then you have to like go to redeem it, get cash, and like buy USDC. It's just like a proof of concept, in my opinion.
So, is this legal in the U.S. to do?
Yeah. I mean, this is what BlackRock's done. This is what Biddle is.
Yeah,
It's the
I
same thing.
guess.
Yeah.
So, all right. I think that's really cool, really interesting, and it would make sense they start with the simplest thing possible. I mean, I guess these money market things are pegged at $1. That's the whole goal, is keep it at $1. So there's no.
I don't know if the tokens are pegged at $1.
Uh,
I don't know if the
the
tokens are pegged
underlying,
at
I
$1.
got you.
Yeah.
Um, so can we talk a minute about Aptos and in general
Sure.
this whole idea of parallelization?
Yeah.
So, Aptos is supposed to be a great layer one because it's going to be faster, because it can do parallel transactions of some sort. And I don't know what level the parallelization is at, but that's a key thesis of it, is to do things in parallel to be faster. Is that a correct assumption at the high level?
Yeah.
So it always occurs to me, because I kind of lived through the parallel computer phase of computing 30 years ago when they were building these big machines, that everyone thought was the future, but it went nowhere because you can't overtake Moore's law of computing. It just gets faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. So even the dumbest algorithm will still work faster than a highly sophisticated parallelized algorithm. And that's not to say you shouldn't do research on how to do parallelization, because that can help when you have multi-core systems, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, back to Aptos and similar systems. Do they have, I've always thought that these are good things, but in the end, what they develop should be, quote, bought or purchased or acquired and integrated into other mainstream blockchains as part of it. Is that is Aptos open source? Do they have trade secret there? How do they monetize it? Because to me, it's a losing bet to think you're going to be faster in the long term.
This is a good question. It's a question about like how crypto startups work in generally, especially layer one. So think about layer ones. If it's a public blockchain, it's all open source, because to be able to have a public blockchain, anyone needs to be able to run a client. So the client code that specifies the protocol's implementation must be open. So anyone can take the technology essentially.
Yep.
So yes, this can be integrated into like Ethereum anywhere else. It's just a question of whether they have the system architecture there allows it, whether it's like part of the design roadmap for the ecosystem as a whole. But yes, generally you can just take it. So where the moat comes from, presumably, is like the liquidity, the token, and like the application ecosystem. So it's like people using it, there's really high transfer costs to go from like, let's say, Ethereum to somewhere else, because you have to take all your assets, go over there. You have all this liquidity here, liquidity begets liquidity, because deeper liquidity is better for trading, and these things are mostly financial tools. So that's the one point there. And then the way that like these companies monetize essentially is by just allocating themselves part of this token, bootstrapping, raising enough money to bootstrap a developer ecosystem and a user ecosystem through like incentives, either through their native token or through just like paying companies to develop on them. And then they basically just want to, the idea would be to, the non-cynical idea would be to use this initial funding and these initial incentives to bootstrap a ecosystem that just keeps going on in an upward spiral, and it has a fundamentally better technology than say Ethereum, because it's faster and all this stuff. So eventually everyone will come over here because that benefit is greater than the switching cost. But in reality, what happens is that a lot of these layer ones are just spun up so that they can exit and dump on people with their native token allocation. So that's basically how it works. And this is my fundamental thesis why like other layer one projects aren't going to succeed in the long term, because I think, like I said, the number one innovation that crypto did was tokenization. Like all these additional kind of modifications and advancements from these other chains are marginal at best. And yes, you can make some money in the short term, but over the long term, the network effect, liquidity of the existing players, like Ethereum mostly, is just too strong.
And okay, I agree with all that. And isn't this underlying thing security? Like a big reason Ethereum is used over any of these other ones is that the perception of security is so much higher because of so many more transactions, so much more time, all that kind of stuff. And BlackRock, JP Morgan, et cetera, they're not going to risk $1 trillion getting stolen or lost.
Yeah, 100%. And it's the decentralization aspect. Like this is like a subjective term. People argue like decentralization doesn't matter, but it does matter for like large organizations that are like operating on like a blockchain. So let's say they go to Aptos, they go to like even Solana. People get mad at me about that. You can argue, but like the chain goes down, and then it's literally like one person's job, one foundation's job to like restart it or so then there's like
Yeah.
culpability. It's not decentralized, it's not resilient enough, so it does go down in the first place. Like Ethereum doesn't go down. So there's all these issues, and I would agree it's security and decentralization, and it's like perceptiveness as like an open source global platform like the World Wide Web, like HTTP is just an open system that you can build on
Yep.
and don't have to worry about like key man risks. You don't have to worry about like it going away. It's just open, and those are the two things. Yeah.
Yep.
So this is why I'm just jaded about all these new L1s that pop up. Like they're interesting, and I'm like, over the short term, they're fun to make money on and use, but I'm just not real bullish over longer time frames.
Yeah. Did you on this note of decentralization? Did you see that Vitalik this week mentioned that he could see a future for one ETH stakers?
For one ETH
One, yeah,
stakers.
like
Oh,
I don't know if
yeah.
that's the right word, but just needing one ETH to do the proof of stake.
You to be a validator, you only need the
Validator,
yeah.
yes.
They're already working on this. They're working on like shared validator technologies where you can basically just like pool ETH natively. Like they already allow you to do this through like mini liquid staking services, but they're like
Hmm.
thinking about implementing this into the protocol itself, I believe. So like some smaller amount of ETH can be used to stake, which would be very cool.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I don't know if you make any money on it, but it would be cool to say, yeah, I'm part of it. I'm part of the ecosystem using my computer I was going to throw out, that kind of thing.
I mean, if ETH goes to 100K, over 5-10 years, then you make some good money. I always wonder about
Yeah.
that. Like the long term equilibrium of ETH staking is like 3% in ETH terms. Then people have done calculations like what's the US dollar value equilibrium of ETH in like 15, 20 years where I can just retire off of my Ethereum staking yield. Like that would be sweet. Like if Ethereum
Yeah.
really does become the backbone of the global financial system, you have your ETH bag and it's just staking there, helping secure it. Maybe you have some used as collateral for whatever, but then that's just a nice source of income for you and your family, just contributing to the security of this global new internet of value that we have. It's a cool idea.
Yeah, and it pays you in an appreciating token rather than a depreciating dollar, right?
Yeah,
Rewards are an ETH.
yeah, for exactly. I think this is the thing with crypto assets right now too. Is like they're very volatile. They're not really good stores of value. But at the end of the day, they're digital commodities. Like Gary Gensler can argue they're securities all they want. They are digital commodities. So what this does mean, however, with a commodity is that its value stabilizes over time. Like of course, its value is relative to whatever you're measuring it in. So if you're measuring in dollars, the value is going to keep going up. But right now, it's super volatile. Eventually, the value of an Ethereum token, because it is this commodity with like structural demand, and it's eventually, hopefully, going to mature into the system where like a baseline equilibrium of supply and demand is reached, and then it fluctuates like oil or something does, but it remains in
Hmm.
this range. That's going to
Hmm.
happen, and then its value against US dollars will just like steadily climb, and it's solely mostly based on like that denominator, based on the inflation of what you're measuring it in. So I think that does happen, and it just takes a while. And right now, it's just still speculative, which is why that's not the case. But I think it does settle. I just think it settles much higher than where the
Hmm.
points are currently at. And at that point, it probably won't be the best like growth investment. It's just it'll be like investing in a commodity like oil. It just
Yeah.
powers this digital ecosystem. So it's um, yeah, it's just an cryptocurrencies are such interesting assets, which is why I don't understand why like financial people like if you just think about it, you have to have a bit of a tech mind and be a bit optimistic about what's going to happen. But they're super interesting assets to think about because they're different than traditional equities, fixed income, commodities. They're just different. So I find them interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's good stuff. Anything else?
Not really. No.
Well, we're approaching an
Uh,
hour anyway, so this has been a pretty good show. I think we dived into a bunch of diverse things again, which I love.
yep. Yep.
Um, all right, well, everybody out there, and I don't think we pumped this enough. Be sure to go sign up for Ben's newsletter. Comes out on Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday or Thursday. It's free, and it's at internetcapital.xyz. You can sign up for it. I don't think we do a good enough job promoting that sometimes. So check that out. Sign up for it, and that's all I have. We'll see you next week, Benny.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing else for me. Sounds good.
All right. Go Hoosiers.
All
We're
right.
out.
See you guys.